To my presentation, Develop DAP Agile, build and release content alongside traditional software development. So a little bit about me, I'm a lifelong learner. I'm very curious. I tend to be crafty in all of the solutions that we're challenged to create. And I've been championing the use of DAP to create seamless experiences, making our users happy. I tried to figure it out. I think it might have been 2017 maybe. But yeah, it all kind of blurs together for me. So where we're going to go today, first I'm going to give a little bit of context to, where we're going, what I'm talking about. And then we'll identify the key Agile concepts that I feel are the most important to adopt to be successful. And that's daily meeting, communicate, work it visually, reframe success and failure, and plan for iterations. And then, we'll have discussion and questions if you guys are feeling like being a part of the conversation. I do try after each slide to kind of pause and see if anyone has any questions or comments or concerns. So I'll start that now. Does anyone have any questions before we go ahead and get started? If not, feel free to give me a thumbs up and we'll jump right in. All right. Fantastic. Thanks, everybody. All right. So first, we're setting the stage with the context and we're talking about where. So where I'm kind of talking about where my experience, comes from is developing, and I use WalkMe, so DAP and WalkMe. I haven't used any other DAP, but within a first-party application, I've also heard them called homegrown, proprietary, closed source, external apps where we put WalkMe on. This is just a thing that we, as in the company I'm working for at the time, owns the software and our customers use it. Does that make sense to folks? Understand what I'm talking about with first-party applications? Awesome. All right, and what are we trying to do? We're trying to release WalkMe, or DAP if you're using something else, content at the same exact time that the new features are released. We don't want there to be any, buffer time or have the WalkMe stuff come out, after stuff has been in prod or production for a while. We want to be releasing seamlessly at the same time as the software that we're supporting. Not seeing any questions in the chat. Oh, thanks, Heather Wirtz. Going to keep your eyes open in the chat for me as well.
I've got you covered, and I think Chris is helping out too. And again, turn on your camera, come off of mute, and talk to us. This is supposed to be interactive. I know it's not in person, but it's the best I can do for the first time around.
Yes, please. Love seeing those faces.
Thanks.
And why are we doing this? So this one is, we want to increase the speed of adoption and the user satisfaction, as well as decreasing that user frustration. And when I talk about user frustration, I'm talking about our end users, of course, but also about me to decrease my frustration and help keep pieces of sanity, right? And adopting agile methods and concepts really does help me to do that for myself as well, and the project teams and the product teams. Gosh, I love seeing all the faces. That's awesome. So then how are we talking about doing this, or how have I kind of identified what works the best for me? Is really first adopting an agile mindset and then applying key agile methods. And really, when I talk about an agile mindset, when you take an agile approach to agile, you're actually able to make the process work for you instead of you working for the process. And I'm sure lots of folks have probably interacted with folks who are like super about like every single thing needs to line up with whatever agile sect that they follow. That is not what I'm about at all here. So please just take what you need and leave the rest. If stuff doesn't jive, doesn't sync with what, the way that you're able to work, the environment that you find yourself in, just forget about it, ignore it entirely. But if you find little bits that, seem like, some gold for you, please feel free to take those on. All right, so that's the context. Before we go through any more, everybody here, everybody following where we're going?
We got you.
Fantastic.
Brad raised his
we got
hand,
a question?
but maybe not.
Or just a wave?
Thought that was just a wave. Carry on.
That's
Hey,
a
Brad.
wave? Awesome. All right. And I do see a question in the chat, actually. I'm glad I have like a wide enough monitor that I can see like all of these things at once. How do you manage the fine line between product creating solutions or DAP? Great question. And I've actually found I've been on a lot of teams. I've been under instructional design. I've been under actually project management. I've been in a lot of different places, I guess. I've been under UX actually too. But really, I'm home right now, and I was home right before I left my prior org. I'm on the product team. So for me, it's kind of easy, being on the product team and creating solutions because I'm part of that team. But really, some of these, key agile concepts to adopt help me do this. It really helps me walk that fine line and satisfy a lot of different stakeholders. So great question. So that first agile concept that I think is super key is the daily meeting. And by daily meeting, we can make the nature of our relationships to dev teams complementary. And the daily meetings that I encourage you seek out and attend are typically things that are between 5 and 30 minutes long, where developers will share their progress on stories. They might be called scrums, they might be called stand-ups, whatever they call them, that's what they are, is the 5 to 30 minutes where they share their progress on their stories. And at these daily meetings, I get to hear and discover like what is going on. I glean when I can start building, which environments I'm able to start building on, as well as the development timelines that I fit into. So I'm able to figure out, okay, what am I dependent on? So when, Sharon or whoever finishes this story, that means I get to go in and start working or build out, my tour or whatever I'm building out a little bit further, as well as what are the blockers. So like if there's stuff that's holding the team up, is this something that could potentially hold up my build as well? And this daily meeting really enables this parallel development that I'm talking about. So I'm talking about myself as a developer, developing alongside these developers, right? And when we're doing these daily meetings, at first I would recommend being, some folks here at my current org are really not encouraged or invited to attend because they tend to just jump in and start asking all of these questions of developers. This is not the place at these stand-ups. It's really just a time to, share progress and not pummel these developers with questions about what they're developing. So at first, start off slow and then eventually, share what you're potentially working on that touches their work. But once you get into the jive with these daily meetings, it really starts to plant the seeds for walk me driven features. So features that are coming from my end that go alongside with the development of whatever page. So you can kind of see this example here on the right. These little icons are all walk me driven. They're all things that I, had an idea for and got with UX designer, got with product owner to implement, these custom buttons, these custom walk me elements. As well as on this page, this volumes page, you can kind of see this mini menu is launched from that little eye launcher. And you can kind of see behind that mini menu, this apply button. So my stuff and the stuff that's on the page complement each other. There's really not an easy way for the end user to see what is WalkMe versus what is the actual product itself. And really that's goes along with Chris. I think everybody had mentioned building trust. So once you start complementing their designs, once you start kind of getting into the flow of the work, that really does go a long way in building trust, as well as not isolating or not hiding away what you're doing with WalkMe. These some of these features were actually now built into the design guide that the UX designer actually uses. So that was a lot about daily meeting. Do we have any questions? I see there's some people sharing stuff in chat, which is great. Nice. I see. Yeah, DC, you hail from AMN with me. That's great to know that it's not just happening over here.
Stephanie, I think this is a great illustration of what we were talking about when we say UI UX gets functionality. You know,
For sure.
Here they are taking advantage of DAP as though it was their own, because it is.
Exactly. It's not just mine, although I do feel, a lot of ownership over it, but.
I hear that.
So that kind of leads to, not hiding things away is another key Agile concept to adopt, which is communicating your work visually. So just don't operate in a vacuum. Don't hide your progress or your pitfalls, and this all leads to how are you communicating your work, I actually also have, in addition to just attending the developer daily stand-ups, a weekly Walk Me stand-up where, key stakeholders like other people on the product team, the project owners, managers, and other folks who might be interested in whatever is being developed at the time are invited to attend. I also have a monthly prioritization meeting with, similar folks where we kind of go through and estimate and prioritize based on like the importance and the impact of stuff. And that's really important too, that I want to call out, developers do this for every sprint, right? But it's also important for us to do it because our time is important. We're important too. Our time matters. So like having a broader audience understand, how much work it might be to implement some type of solution is really important. It also helps, with the prioritization, you to be focusing on like the biggest impact things for the business. So if you're just the only one kind of making those decisions, don't be doing that. Like you need other folks who kind of understand where the business is driving to help weigh in on the priorities of stuff that you're building. Another really good one about communicating work, and I know this is scary, but Samantha Graham, you've placed that as a best practice when you were kind of onboarding me, and I'm going to continue to shout it, but demo your Walk Me content when it's applicable to stuff at the end of sprint demos that developers give. And as we all know, well, I don't know if all of us know this, but in my experience, it's never awesome trying to deliver a live demo with Walk Me in Teams. They just seem to not like each other very much. So record and share the video, for those demos. That way you can get across what you're trying to get across without worrying about any of the technical difficulties that are sure to happen. So, especially with intake queues too, with the prioritization, it helps to be a lot more selective and talk through things. And the way that I communicate my work visually, outside of, the stand-ups and demos, I use a Jira board. I've used different variations. You can kind of see a screenshot there of a Kanban board. I also have a Walk Me release calendar. That's, a fancy little calendar in Excel that helps kind of communicate when stuff is slated to release, which Walk Me content is slated to release. I've seen folks use other stuff too, like Trello boards are another one. I'm not sure about some other ones. I don't know. How do you guys communicate your work visually? Do you use anything besides Jira, or is everybody using Jira? Oh, I see someone uses DevOps. That's something that I'll have to take a look at. DevOps and Smartsheet. Okay, cool. Yep, I have got a person on product team who really loves Smartsheet, Rally, Ado. Oh, these are all tools that I would love to learn more about. Trello, there's one that I've used in the past too. Very cool. Oh, and videos in Slack. Jira. Yep. There's thread of moving over to DevOps. Okay. Well, I'm gonna definitely have to take a look at some of those tools. So thanks, y'all. Jira tickets. Yep. Google Docs. Oh, awesome. I love to see that we're doing this. The more that you can communicate your work visually, the better. So this one is a fun one. One of the folks on my team was just like, you need to just totally scrap all of this text on the slide and just say problems equal opportunities. Yeah, that's well and good. But really, when I'm talking about reframing success and failure, that's part of it, right? We don't want to necessarily just use all of that, like, I don't know what you call it, that exec speak, right? Problems do equal opportunities. But, really what I'm talking about is, not hiding problems or assigning blame, but just looking at problems as problems that have possible solutions. So instead of hiding or assigning blame to stuff, I try to shift my thinking and think about how can I use WalkMe or whatever DAP to solve the problem. And so one example that I kind of got a screenshot there of was the legends, the dreaded legends example. So there was once upon a time in this software, and a hard-coded legend. Apparently, it was very costly to do. It was time consuming. And the product owner says, never again, never again. Unfortunately, users ask for and want legends. Multiple asks. So, I had stumbled across this kind of support ticket. And I was just kind of thinking, I'm like, we could do the exact same thing using WalkMe. And it actually ended up saving a ton of money using WalkMe. So I using that initial story, I was able to find out it was a little bit more than $8,000 for traditional development to implement a legend. I know, right? It's crazy. And being pretty generous, I figured that it's like about $1,000 if we're using high end of pay scale that I don't actually get paid for me to implement one legend via WalkMe. So because we decided, we keep hearing these asks, we're going to implement legends on all of these new pages as part of an initial release. So this was back when I only had 6 legends going. I found that for a traditional developer to have done the 6 legends, it would have cost over $48,000. And so using WalkMe, I saved them like $47,000 saved by using WalkMe. And really that's actual savings, because that meant that the developers were free not to just like go play on Facebook or whatever, but they were actually free to work on roadmap items or higher priority items. So that's another callback to Chris's keynote about like allowing IT to get control of the application back. So they're actually able to do the development that really brings that, brings home the bacon, I guess. They're getting to do the development that they want to be doing. And I can keep building legends quickly and cheaply. Legend of Zelda Dream, maybe. Awesome. Yeah. Do you guys have any questions? I saw a couple things coming through the chat, but I'm not able to talk and read at the same time. But yeah, that legend example is a good one, because I was actually able to see what it really costs doing it the old-fashioned way or the dev way. And we're just free to put
There's
on
a whole lot of
that's
commiseration about
yeah.
awful built-in legends.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I wouldn't recommend doing either. But if we have to do it, I would recommend doing it with WalkMe.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure, I feel that. It goes against my design sense, but to make the users happy, I will do it. So another agile concept to adopt is planning for iterations. I have a quote: forever marching onward. Yes, we are forever marching onward, and delivering something with the product release is never the end of the road for your content, or it shouldn't be. And I've been at places too where it's like, oh, we delivered it, let's never look at it again, and it's there for years and years and nobody does anything to it, and hopefully it keeps working. But hopefully you don't do that. That's not the ideal state. So a way to kind of jump into this this mindset and to start doing it is really attend those retrospectives and the demos that the dev teams tend to do. Whatever they demo or learn from, I want to learn from too. So just be a part of that. And then another big one, and I've done it, I do it at this organization and at the prior org, is establishing metrics reviews. And sometimes it's really easy to get people to want to join those. Sometimes it's a little bit like pulling teeth, but you can establish metrics reviews where you're taking a look at the metrics from insights or, the new console maybe, that speak to your audience, that can help you get the ability to start planning for what's the next step for that content. Not only that, but also being able to find feedback channels, and the metrics reviews is kind of one of those channels where you're able to, for me, it's search terms is a big one. Find the source that the users are at. What are users looking for? What are they asking for? What are they saying? As well as we've got some surveys implemented as well. So that's one of those channels, but there are other feedback channels too, right? So find those and listen to them. It's not enough just to look at these and then do nothing, right? You have to kind of come up with a plan to address some of the feedback that you get. Another really big one is pay attention to service desk tickets. I've also been fortunate enough here to be invited to join service desk's triage calls and watch them actually do parallel programming. But it's another opportunity for me to actually hear what users are saying or what folks are asking for. Another really good one, and it really does depend on your company's AI policies, so make sure you learn those policies first, but you can ask AI to summarize survey responses and look for themes, and this makes a lot of what you get, the massive amount of lines of things coming out of insights, actually kind of usable and meaningful to other people. So did that with our second round of NPS scores, and it made a huge difference. We got a lot more people talking about what the users were asking for, why they were giving their ratings, just because it was in a format that was a lot easier to read and a lot easier for folks to digest. So getting, that visibility to your end users. There's other things too, like if, potentially there's advisory calls you can jump on, but just putting those feelers out and trying to get that feedback. So that way you can use, all of that data, all of that info to plan what are you going to do next for this content? Is this content useful? That's a lot. So those are my concepts that I say everyone should adopt. Let's see, does anybody have anything that they'd like to shout out or question? Using AI this way is genius. Oh, very nice. Yes, I thought so too. It's nice that AI was able to actually do the hard work of making something that would have taken me way too long that I never would have even, attempted. Any other questions? We've decided we're done and have adopted a motion to congratulate ourselves. Very nice. If anybody was interested, I started thinking Agile, I guess, even before DAP, even before, clamoring for a DAP solution, but as just a regular old instructional designer. And so I super encourage folks to check out Meg Torrance's stuff. She kind of has led, I guess, a revolution of instructional designers thinking agilely. So there's some resources there. I think they actually, if you click on them, they might work. I'm not sure. We tried to test that out before, but they do. Nice. As well as taking a look at the super 90s looking Agile manifesto, because I know that there's a lot of oh, this is smart Agile. This is whatever those other things that they build on where there's these crazy pictograms where you have to look through things. But if you actually take a look at the original Agile manifesto, it's actually really easy to digest. And there's plenty more concepts in there that, I find very useful. So. Oh, Meg Torrance's book is on your desk right now. Awesome. That's great. Well, that's it for me, everybody. I hope I see some questions.
Yeah, definitely. Big fan. I might have a two-parter for you. The first part is, with your organization, did you fall into something that already had Agile structure in place? Or was it something that you had to kind of implement and kind of convince other folks that this is the way?
So here there was a little bit of Agile already in place. There was a Kanban board. I didn't have to fight for that. But at the prior organization, 100% yes, I had to fight for every little bit of it. And that fighting actually, of the many moves that I had, was why they put the instructional design team under project management, because we had been starting those dialogues about wanting to, be working like an Agile team, wanting to be displaying our work visually and have access to Jira, or Trello. First we had Trello, and they're like, oh no, that's not okay. And then they finally gave us, the access. So yeah, it was a fight at a prior org. Here it was definitely already kind of, in place. It was just, a little bit of pecking to get invited to the stand-ups. But yeah, I think that if you're wanting to work agilely, it's not that hard if you are at an org that tells you that they're agile. I've never really been at a place that's like, no, we develop everything waterfall. So if there's some agile structure somewhere in your org, it's pretty easy to get the buy-in to operate that way, especially since a lot of times it's like not costing the org any money to do that for you most of the time. So.
And if you don't mind, like what are some of like the some of the pushback that you'd be hearing that we could kind of articulate some solutions to kind of move towards this direction, in your opinion?
Oh, like the pushback of one of the big ones was on the Jira, like, oh, we don't want you to tie to any of our dev team's tickets because we're worried it'll influence their sprints and stuff. Well, no, there's ways around that. So I mean, just providing, here's what we plan to do, providing that outline of here's where we're headed, here's where the vision is, and getting it to the right approvers or people. Otherwise, a lot of times you don't really need approval. You can just kind of do it and then ask for forgiveness later.
Sure.
Because it's really just processes, right? If you want to be, attending meetings, I remember when we were in office at the prior org, it was a fight to get to be able to be invited and know where the people were actually meeting. And that used to be where they would actually stand up. It was a stand up around like a standing desk. And I would just go through the building and be like, where are these people? And I would find them. Right. So, you just be persistent. It's a good way to work. And a lot of people know that. And a lot of dev teams already know that. So if you can connect with the people that do it and do it well, it'll make it an easier sell for you, for sure.
Right on. Thanks, Stephanie.
No problem.
Okay.
We are going to let Miss